Hey, Amie,
Yeah, Juan.
give me that beat.
It's Baseball Shangri-La with Amie Cuevas and Juan Ramirez.
What's up, party people? She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. You are listening or watching Baseball Shangri-La. If you are listening on the audio portion of the show, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. Rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button. Leave us comments. Engage with us. Help spread the word, and most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. Amie, ¿cómo estás? Long
It's
time no
been
see.
it's been so long.
It's been so long. All right, Amie. So we're going to start off with this, and that is Federico Freeman is back. Do you want to set it up for anybody who's been living under a rock and doesn't know why Federico has been missing, or do you just want to go straight to his comeback, his return?
I'll set it up, but I'm gonna keep it minimal just because it's his kid, and if you don't know, go look it up. But essentially, his 3-year-old was hospitalized over the last week and a half. It turns out he was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. Guillain, I'm gonna butcher that. Look it up, Google it. But it's a neurological condition, and so he left Houston to go be with his family. He returned last night to the Dodgers. So and by last night, I mean Monday evening in the game against the Phillies, and there was a lot of emotion. There were players and broadcasters, commentators alike, all wearing Max Strong shirts throughout the broadcast and for batting practice. So he was definitely missed. There were a lot of well wishes and prayers sent out to his family as they were going through a really hard time.
So I was at the game on Monday, and so there were those Max Strong shirts, and Freddie addressed the media at like 3 o'clock on Monday before the game, and I to no surprise, Freddie said it was like the first time I cried today was when he saw everyone wearing that Max Strong. And do we even know who came up with that idea to get those shirts?
I
Is it
don't
even
know.
known?
Maybe, but honestly, I didn't dig too deep because I was just happy he was back, and I did feel bad for him because he had you see him on different people interviewing him, and it's like he's literally having to relive it over and over and over again and say the same things. But I guess one of the things, and we're going to get to it, that came out of it though, is I really do appreciate Freddie's emotion. Like, he prefaced that 3 p.m. Interview with the press of just like, hey, I'm probably going to cry. And like, he took a second to gather himself. And I just appreciate that he doesn't hide that. Like, he's human. He has emotions. And this was a scary time for him. It was a very emotional time, both coming back and seeing the support from his team, but also just the last week and a half can't have been easy. And I appreciate him showing that emotion rather than being stoic and coming back and look how strong I am.
So I was at the game, but I want to hear your reaction first when Federico goes up to the plate. It's his first at bat in the bottom of the first, and he gets a standing ovation from the crowd. How you were watching it on TV? How did that moment play on TV?
It was beautiful. We saw it from multiple different angles. Apparently, MLB was alerted beforehand. So what we saw, and I can't wait to hear like what the live version was, but we saw him walking up to the plate, didn't quite make it to the batter's box, kind of hat tip to everybody, was, putting his hand on his heart. They would pan out to even the Phillies players, and some of them had their hats off, and it was a moment of solidarity. And then you saw the pan to the crowd, and everybody was on their feet giving him an ovation, and it was so moving. And one of the reasons where this wasn't even part of the game, but this is why I love baseball. This is why I love our show, and part of why I wanted to start something like this with you. for the humanity of the game, and seeing the fans for once, not people not bitching, not everybody having all their like side conversations, we should do this better, but just everybody united and supporting this guy and what he went through. And it was beautiful.
I want to tip my hat off. I want to give flores to two people, and one is the Phillies of Philadelphia's catcher Garrett Stubbs, because as Federico walked up to the plate, Garrett Stubbs gave him a hug, gave him a handshake, and then Garrett Stubbs walked in front of the plate towards the pitcher's mound.
You're gonna make me cry right now again.
Basically, and turned his back to the pitcher, right? Basically, not even giving the pitcher a chance to throw the ball. So I thought that was a super classy move by Garrett Stubbs. I know that the Philadelphia Phillies, they were all on the dugout. They were applauding. I know everybody in the Dodgers dugout was applauding. But I also, and I forget what the umpire's name, the home plate umpire's name, and that's my bad. I should have gotten that name. But the fact that that umpire allowed Federico to have his moment. Now, the fact that you said Major League Baseball, MLB Network was alerted to this, this may have been a conversation that they had with the umpire before the game, saying, hey, let Freddie have his moment, because I know there has been, and I know Dave Vassay brought this up on Dodger Talk Monday night, was like, well, I hope they do the same thing when Justin Turner returns to Dodger Stadium later this month when the Marineros come.
Mm-hmm. Because they've cut short some of these and pitch clock violation and whatever, and it's like, no, this is why, this is part of the game. Let it be.
So I just think it was super classy for both the umpire and Garrett Stubbs.
Home plate umpire Marvin Hudson.
He deserves, they deserve a lot of credit. I feel like they handled that great. Now, I was at the game sitting with the most negative Dodger fan friends that I have. And right before the game started, because at that point, we didn't know whether Federico was in the lineup or not. Mm-hmm. And so my buddy Oscar had said to me, he was just like, do you think Freddie's going to play? I was like, well, more than likely, but I just don't know how he's feeling, especially
do they know you talk about them like this?
Oh, yeah, they listen to the show. They know their characters in the show. So after seeing that press conference, I don't know. And Federico later on said this, it's really hard to hit when you're crying, mm-hmm. right? So I don't know what emotional state Federico was in. Like, I would have been surprised if he didn't play, that he just wanted to be around his teammates. He wanted to be at the stadium because that's one symbol of normalcy, right?
There's no way that guy doesn't play.
Right.
I understand what you're saying, but you can't drag that guy off the field for anything. This would be the only reason.
That's logic. That's logic right there, Amie. So Oscar looks at me and he goes, over under how many times Freddie cries during the game. And I said, one, I for sure, I knew he was going to cry in that mm-hmm. first at bat. But Amie, I have to tell you, I am so surprised by the reaction to the Dodger fans giving Freddie a standing ovation. I knew that was going to happen. I didn't expect anything less. I knew that Dodger fans were going to give him a standing ovation. I knew they were going to give him a huge warm welcome. So for everyone to be talking about how surprised, I'm like, man, do you guys just think Dodger fans are the biggest assholes out there? Like, they have no heart? Like,
I don't think it's that, because I think it still happens across the game. Like, I think it was Albert Pujols when he went back to the Cardinals. Same thing with Chase Utley. They got these amazing ovations, and people are shocked every time. And it's like, you don't think that's going to happen? Like, we love this sport. So I was right there with you on the shock. It was like,
I mean, like, I know a lot of people were saying, like, oh my God, it was one of the greatest moments. It's the highlight of the season. And, look, I'm not going to argue with you on that sense. But for me, I was expecting, I knew that was coming. So to hear everybody
but you're not a casual.
I guess that's what it is too.
You know baseball, you understand how the game works, much like many of us. So to many of us, we were not surprised. But if you imagine, if you don't go to a lot of games, maybe you don't even watch a lot of games, and you see that happen, that would be kind of a wondrous moment for you of like, what are we doing here? Like, so remember, there are gradations of fans, and not everybody is as immersed in it as we are.
No, I mean that's a good point. I know in his first at bat when the at bat finally started, I looked at Oscar and I said, if he hits a home run, this place is going to lose their mind. I mean,
Unfortunately, he was so teary-eyed, he could barely see
exactly.
the ball.
But he ended up getting a hit later on, and you knew that everybody was rooting for him. Like every time he went to first base or any Phillies player got to first base, they were all like, I was surprised to hear they shared this that Bryce Harper had been texting Freddie throughout this whole time this was happening during this week and a half.
These
And
guys know each other.
yeah. Yeah, so it was one of those moments that was just it was a very with everything that's going on that's been happening this season. It really does put things into perspective in the sense that we're here to watch a game, and yeah, both teams are struggling, both teams are going through it, but this guy, I mean, when Freddie hears, to be able to hold his son again, and it's just then and the fact that you hear reports that all the Dodger players were telling him, dude, take as much time as you need. Don't come back until you're ready. I mean, that really puts everything into perspective. And I heard the Martin Short, the great actor, said this, and I had no clue about this, but he famously lost his wife. But what I didn't realize is he lost his brother when he was 12 years old. He lost his mother at 17, and he lost his father at 20. To experience that much loss before you're 20 years old is crazy. And what Martin Short said is when you experience loss, it puts everything into perspective, and you no longer care what anybody thinks because there's nothing that anybody can say to you that's going to be worse than the loss that you've already experienced. And
I think that's so important to how we all experience baseball. I feel like there is a shift that's necessary in this game versus, I don't know if it's because we have too much information now. I feel like we had information in different ways a long time ago, but we've talked about this before. Like, I don't understand the negativity. I don't understand the woulda, shoulda, coulda in the game, because we get what we get every day. And you've mentioned this twice now, like this puts it all into perspective between last week and this week. And like, I don't understand not just enjoying this game for the national pastime that it is, for the beautiful game that it is. Like, I guess I don't understand it. Like, even Jessica Mendoza was talking about Shohei stealing. Like, it's the strategy. Like, had he not stole some of those bases, stole second, stole third, they wouldn't have played in more, and then we couldn't have gotten another run in. And it's just that level of strategy. And it's where those are the things where, like, celebrate that. Celebrate the ovations these guys get. A random at bat where he walks up and the whole stadium breaks out into Freddie. Like those are the things I want to experience in this game. I want to have more of that humanity, because at the end of the day, none of this is promised. The game isn't promised. Our players, like, I don't know. I feel like we all could use a shift in how this game is experienced.
I think that's an excellent point on your part. One of the things that I've been thinking about lately, especially with the stories that we've been covering, is the fact that, for the last few years that I've been covering this team, I've been exposed to a lot of information, and I found myself almost being less of a fan now and going, I don't know if I like I'm as big as a Dodger fan as I once was. And what I realize is this, and that is finding balance in life is very, very important. I love baseball. I think I'm always going to love baseball. But I do think it is super important to have balance in your life, because I understand why people get angry and they get passionate, because the Dodgers winning brings them joy. And when that is deprived from them, I get that it's upsetting. But looking at it from that point of view, it also feel like it's unhealthy, because if you're so dependent on one thing making you happy or bringing you joy, that to me is scary. And for me, that I didn't sit I looked at myself going, well, why am I not as much of a fan anymore? And I realized it's okay. That means I have balance in my life. I have other things in my life that bring me joy. So I'm not just dependent on the Dodgers winning. And if the Dodgers don't win, I'm miserable. So that, watching all this, and just like I said, hearing Freddie, being reminded, hearing, that Reyes Moronta,
Mhm.
passed away at 31, seeing that the White Sox have lost 21 straight games, it's like it puts things into perspective, I think.
Well, and I feel like that's you and I have had these conversations kind of off show, but like kind of getting to see. I think it's a blessing and a curse, right? Getting to peel back the layers and see behind the curtain. There are certain personalities where you're like, wow, I didn't know that person was like that. But I think there's also a lot of reinforcement. Like you meet people like Freddie, Mookie, and you see. And not saying that none of the other Dodgers are like that. I'm just picking two out, but like they really are amazing guys on and off the field, and that's where, like, again, in life as in baseball, like you pick and choose what you're going to focus on. And I think that's what I love about this game is it is a metaphor for life. Crap's going to happen. You're going to lose games. That's where I guess I don't understand that we've got to win, that's what brings me joy mentality. Like we all love to win, but if it's going to be somewhat of a mirror for life, we don't win in life all the time either. There are ups and downs, there are good and bad days. That's why I love baseball, because it's a reminder of that. Yeah, we might not win today, but you know what? Short memory. We go out there and we try hard again tomorrow. Like there are books written, whether you're looking at life quotes in general in a self-help section, or you're looking at like baseball life quotes that like give that metaphor to you. To me, that's what it is for me. So it's like, okay, short memory. Let's go into the next thing. I do that in my life. I do it in baseball, because we're not promised another day. Like ask, no, well, you can't ask, but like Reyes Moranta, like he doesn't get that opportunity. His family is without him. Freddie got really lucky and his son is okay. I think if we can just look at baseball for the enjoyable thing that it is, for what it brings us, for these guys running out on that field every day and giving it their all, that to me, at the simplest level, that's good enough.
And I bring this up because this is my attempt to try not to be so Prince of Darkness. Are
you the Duke of Darkness now?
I'm going to make an attempt. I really am, ladies and gentlemen. But there are times where I'm going to lapse, and I just ask you to be patient with me, and just realize Juan is having a bad day today, and let me go. So
we need to come up with a safe word for Juan when he's lapsed into Prince of Darkness, y'all.
Exactly.
Pineapple, pineapple, pineapple.
It's just like, anything else that you want to add about the Freddie Freeman conversation before we move on to the next topic?
No, it was just a really beautiful moment. And whether we saw it on TV or you got to experience it in real life, I think it was a nice shared moment across baseball. And yeah.
Absolutely. So I know we have some updates because guys are starting to come back from injury. I know we got into some of them in the last episode. Do you have any other updates that you want to address?
Yeah. So we heard, got some updates either across social media, or there was a really great article by Fabian Ardaya on The Athletic that I think we can kind of dive into as well. But I just noticed that the Dodgers Insider posted that Dave Roberts said when Mookie Betts returns, he's going to play shortstop and bat second. So Ohtani is going to continue as the leadoff hitter, which is kind of leads us into where I was going to go with some of the players, but that's interesting.
It is only just because I feel like Mookie was so adamant about hitting in the leadoff spot. So I'm very curious to see how that impacts him in that number 2 spot? If he's less productive, is it because because we've talked about the mental aspect, like guys are so used to routine. I'm used to hitting in this spot in the lineup. So I am very curious to see how that impacts Mookie.
Which feels
And
like it feels funny because it really only matters that first time through, right? Because at any given point during the game, now you're just cycling through the lineup. So I guess to me, I'm curious why they don't tweak it a little bit more, because I feel like that's one of my favorite things to do. Like not to critique the front office, but like, okay, so what if we put, you put Theo in leadoff, and then you have like Shohei hitting third if he does get more opportunities with runners in scoring position, and maybe you put Lux in second, like all the different ways you could tweak it. But does it go into the mentality, like you said, of, well, if I'm used to being the leadoff hitter and that affects my mental, approach to the game, does that have an impact, or does it matter because once you get through that first time through the lineup, now you're just cycling through?
well, I'm very eager to see it because I know on paper, or not on paper, just looking at Shohei, he's not your stereotypical leadoff hitter, right? You look at Shohei, you're like, he should be hitting second, third, cleanup. That's what you see because he hits a lot of home runs. But when you really think about it, Shohei steals more bases than Mookie Betts. And so you want Shohei getting on base. You want Shohei stealing, getting in scoring position. And I'm curious to see what this does to have Mookie protecting Shohei and what kind of pitches Shohei's going to get now. So it is very, I know they also probably want to split up the lefties,
which they've been talking about for a minute, even before Mookie got hit. So
yeah, so I agree with you that it's interesting that they committed to it. I want to see what it looks like, but like I said, if you look, to me, it makes sense just because of everything else that Shohei brings to the table.
Yeah, and maybe we'll see that stat change that we were talking about that you mentioned. How often is he getting those opportunities with runners in scoring position? Of, so far, I think that has changed because he had that 3-run home run the other night. But prior to this last week of games, his 32 home runs, only one of them had been with runners in scoring position. The rest were solo. So he's had some more opportunities, and we've seen that play out. 3-run home run, a couple other times in different situations.
Yeah, I mean, when you got Jason Hayward and you got Nick Ahmed, and who else was hitting in front of him yesterday, that it was just like, oof, that's rough. I mean, how do you expect them to drive him in if nobody's getting on base?
Well, and that's where, like, once you do get through the first time, not to demote Lux in any way, but do you make him the 9 hitter because he is hitting so well? Do you have him, like, once you get through, or are you trying to get him that extra at bat, putting him lower in the lineup? Like, I don't know.
Well, the good thing is with Lux, they've been moving around. He's been hitting third. He hit fifth the other night, and I mean, before
he's
he was
all
hitting,
over.
Yeah, he's been so far. It seems, at least in the second half of the season, no matter where you put him, he's hitting, and I think that's a good sign.
So as far as kind of the updates, and then that'll lead us into what you alluded to in our last episode, like we have all these guys coming back. Where are we going to put them? Betts, Muncy, Tommy Edman, and Rojas are going to face live pitching in a sim game this Thursday coming up, so August 8th. And then Tommy Edman is supposed to go on a rehab assignment after that. So this will be the first time he's playing in the field for this season, this year at all. So Muncy's also been swinging for a few days now, so I don't know if anybody's heard. He had that chiropractic adjustment last week, so that really impacted his ribs. Supposedly it made everything better. So we'll see how that shakes out. You had already mentioned Gratterall got reactivated from the 60-day IL, and Trinan was placed on it or at least the short-term IL for left hip discomfort. And then Buehler's set to make one more rehab start with Oklahoma City next week, and then he should be rejoining the Dodgers rotation. And Miller was scratched from a recent minor league start due to adductor tightness.
And I'm sorry, the Brazier again. When is Brazier?
So I didn't have anything on there other than Grove, Gratterall, and Brazier are supposed to be coming back.
Okay. So
and
we don't.
I don't have a timeline on that. And then, as you mentioned before, Biggio got DFA'd on Monday to bring back Freddie.
Yeah. So look, that's a lot of players that you just mentioned right now are on the injured list, ready to come back.
And that's
And
not
there's
even the moves and everybody who's on the field or on the team
e-
right now.
exactly. So I don't know how they're going to do this because
And
look,
Rojas is playing with the Quakes tonight. So he's doing a rehab
that's
game
right.
Tuesday night. So August 6th. He's playing with the Quakes right now.
So all of a sudden, the Dodgers went from like getting guys off the street to play for them to now they have too many players. And look, I hinted at this with the Blake Trinan going on the injured list that maybe what Blake Trinan, maybe his injury is not that bad, that he could probably play through it, but because they have the luxury to give him rest, they're going to do that. I am curious if they're going to do that with other players where they're going to get a tap on the shoulder saying, "Hey, man, your back's hurting you, right?" And you're going to be like, what? And then,
Allegedly, we don't know that that's happening.
but because there's not enough room, and
They have
mean,
more guys coming back than they have spots, which is if you guys have, if you guys read the Athletic article, that's exactly what Fabian was talking about. Fabian, like you've got Muncy potentially coming back for third base, which you mentioned in our last episode. We don't know if we're going to see him, but it sounds like he's progressing more towards actually coming back. But if not, you've got Kike, Rosario, and then Taylor, who can potentially play there. And they said last week that Rosario's only going to face left-handed pitching. That's what he was brought in for. So that kind of limits him there. Then at shortstop, you've now got Nick Ahmed, who's been playing every game since July 24th, except for the start on Sunday. But you've also got Kike, Rojas, Rosario, who can play at shortstop. So you've got kind of a log jam of all of these players on the infield. And that's not even counting in Mookie, who they're saying now is coming back to shortstop. So what are we doing with these other guys then?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. Like I can see, is Outman currently on the 26-man roster, or was he optioned already?
I think he's still on there. I didn't see an announcement that he got pulled off, but don't quote me on that. Jose Ayala, I'm saying I don't know.
I can see Outman being sent down. I can see Bajes being sent down. I know he got a lot of grief over the ball in center field on the Monday night game.
He's gonna make
because
mistakes. He's a rookie.
But that was a 2-run mistake because you take that away and Glasnow start looks so much better. He only gives up 1 run going 6 innings.
These guys aren't perfect. They're going to make some mistakes now and again. We see it on the other team and we capitalize on those. That literally is the game. So where we don't focus so much when the other guys on the other side make them because we benefit, it is going to happen on our side too. That's literally how you balance out the game.
Yeah, I get that, but his defense has been shaky lately, and it makes me really nervous that in a playoff game, where a situation like that, where it was a 2-run game because Shohei later on, padded it, but if you end up losing that game by 1 run and 2 of them came on a play after 2 outs that would have ended the inning,
what are you going to do?
Well,
and I guess I'm joking with you, but like the bigger conundrum is, okay, so people get upset that we have too many veteran players. Oh, some of these guys are old and they're washed up and we have them. Then we have like middle grade players that are okay. Not everyone's a superstar. And then you bring up the rookies, but then they're like, oh, rookies are making mistakes. Send them down, send them down. Well, when do they get the experience so that they can get, to either that medium level or even eventually make it to the veteran status? Like, where are they getting the experience in the show? Because we know it's not the same as AAA. We even say that about our players that are rehabbing there. It's a nice place to rehab, but it's still not the same simulation of actually being in the show. So where do we get them those reps when they do make those mistakes?
No, I hear you, but now we're getting into the playoffs, and it's about winning a World Series. So, like I said, I can see Outman and Bajes going down.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where it's going to starting to get really difficult. Kiermaier, who obviously is only there for defensive purposes, who, by the way, has already announced this is his last year. He is retiring at the end of this year. Offensively, the numbers are just not there. I can see him being an option to be DFA'd.
Mhm.
I see Nick Ahmed as an option of being DFA'd, and that's one that I really struggle with, only because, and I get it that Nick Ahmed's bat isn't going to help you, but if Miguel Rojas isn't really healthy, like if his arm issue becomes if his arm becomes an issue again, and you lose him again, and you've already DFA'd Nick Ahmed, unless these guys decide to stay in the system, because nobody else claimed them, it's just so hard for me, because the greatest indicator of future injury is past injury.
But these guys
And
have all been injured at this point.
exactly.
So,
Yeah, so
you could keep Ahmed, and then that doesn't go well either.
exactly. So that's why, to me, like, I really don't know what they're gonna do. I think they're in an
I'm glad this
incredibly.
isn't up to us. I'm glad this is on them to figure it out.
This is a really tough. It's a really tough decision, because not only, okay, once they do decide to make these moves, they got to give these guys playing time, because these guys got to get back into a rhythm before the playoffs start.
Well, and Doc said certain guys playing every day are being exposed. So is that more towards, well, we need to platoon them more so they don't like it just
I don't know if, I mean, I think in terms of the position, I think there's more of a numbers crunch in the bullpen,
Mhm.
because if you have Brazier coming back, I'm
Is he
very, like,
healthy? But that's to your point. How healthy are they? Like you're speculating on Rojas, but like I'm just like, is Gratterall good? Like
I mean, we'll see, but I mean, based on being the low man on the totem pole, I think a prime candidate to be DFA'd is Honeywell, and all that dude has done
no,
is pitched well.
Honeywell and Banda, I think, have done so great for this team. I don't want to see them go anywhere. Like, I think that they've been really great additions. They've been pretty consistent. I mean, they've obviously gotten into some trouble, a little bit of it, but that's going to happen. Nobody has a perfect record. I don't think we've ever seen a pitcher with a 0 ERA at the end of the year. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
But
I'm fascinated, and especially since, I mean, they're talking about Mookie may be activated next week against the Cerveceros.
They're saying the 12th or the 13th of August, optimistically. And he mentioned his left hand. He doesn't feel anything at all. So I'm assuming he's talking about pain. I hope he doesn't mean he doesn't feel his left hand. But he's even addressed it. He mentioned exactly what you're saying. He said there's a lot of guys that can play shortstop here. If that's not in the cards, then it's cool. I can go from there to anywhere else. On the other side of fear is bliss and glory. Well, now we know he's going to be playing shortstop now. So now we have that logjam there of, okay, does he get spelled by Rojas and Kike? Because Rojas is, but you're carrying 3 people at shortstop.
Yeah, I mean, it is so crazy what's happening to a team that has struggled with health all year long, and now everybody's getting healthy
Do you
at the
keep
same time.
Ahmed? Okay, of the Ahmeds, do you keep Nick Ahmed or do you keep Ahmed Rosario?
I saw that too, that Ahmed Rosario, it may be a candidate to be DFA'd, and I'm like, oh man, I just like, why
if you could only keep one Ahmed, last name or first name, which one would you keep?
See, the thing is, they're both extremes, right?
I know, right?
Because Nick Ahmed defensively is fantastic, but he doesn't have Ahmed Rosario's bat. And Ahmed Rosario's bat is great, but he doesn't have the defensive skill set that Ahmed has.
Mhm.
Now, you may be at one point, you just may be a little, you may have repetition in certain positions, because if Miguel Rojas is truly healthy, you don't need Nick Ahmed,
Mhm.
right? You don't. If Max Muncy comes back, look, for me, Tommy Edman, I think now is clearly going to be viewed as an outfielder. I think that's probably where he's going to see the majority of his action, is in the outfield. I mean, he has the option. He can play in the infield.
Well, and we no longer have a left fielder. Well, we do. Theo moves around, but we don't have Vargas as a backup.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if I know Chris Taylor was working out at Dodger Stadium. I don't know how close his time frame is. I don't know if the Dodgers necessarily want Chris Taylor to come back.
Oh wait, that's right, because he had that injury. I forgot about that.
Yeah, he has the growing issue. So I'm telling you, it's both good and bad in my opinion. You know, you're getting healthy, you have all these options, but now I think you might have too many options, and therefore, like, what do you do? And my biggest concern
What is that? The paralysis analysis or something like that?
yeah, my biggest concern is they make these decisions, and then the next day someone gets hurt, and now you're just like, if that happens, I guess you're just snake bit. It's just like you can't control that.
Well, the good thing is, whatever people may say, the front office has more information than we do, and we may watch games. They're watching them too. They've got access to the trainers, the medical history, and they're going to make the most informed decision they can in the moment. And like you said, things are going to change. We didn't see Rojas getting injured. I bet he didn't either. I mean, if it happened on the bat, like you said, he was just practicing his swing with like one of the heavier weighted bats. Didn't see that coming. Like, it's just, oh man.
It is going to be a vicious game of musical chairs, and I honestly, I don't know.
Buckle up, Buttercup. Buckle up, because Thursday is their last off day before they have 13 consecutive games till their next day off. So,
woof. That's rough. Okay. Any more on this before we move on to the next topic?
I'm spent.
I do just want to bring up very briefly, Jeff Passan had an article for ESPN where the Major League Baseball owners are contemplating perhaps being able to trade draft picks.
Is this like the Manfred, like non-committal statements, or?
It's very early stages. But pretty much when you think about it, everything can be traded in Major League Baseball except for draft picks. You can trade managers, you can trade players, but you can't trade draft picks. Now, we saw a lot of trades happen in this last trade deadline. However, we didn't see a lot of big names moved. So I am curious if they are contemplating this, thinking, well, if teams can trade draft picks, maybe that's going to make the trade deadline even more active, and we will see big names get traded. Because here's the thing: in free agency, you make a qualifying offer to somebody, and if they end up, signing with somebody else, the team who signs them, they lose the draft pick, right? Okay. And so we all know there are certain teams in Major League Baseball that covet draft picks because that's how they build their system, because they don't spend money on free agency or big players.
You're about to set me off again. There are a few things in this game.
So you see it, the perfect example. I mean, both the NFL and the NBA do this. Those two sports, they allow you to trade draft picks. And a lot of times you see big stars being traded for a ridiculous amount of draft picks.
What do you see as the downside in this?
That you're just going to see fire sales. You're going to see something like what the Marlins did this past trade deadline. Now, mind you, the Marlins made a killing because they got a lot of young talent. The players that they gave away, they got a lot of prospects in return. Now,
Which thing is good, but you still can't play them right now.
Well, I mean, the thing is if those prospects are major league ready, what they are is they're cost controlled, and they could make the Marlins competitive in these next few years.
And
they
you can use them as trade chips at the deadline too.
True, exactly. You can trade them, or you don't have to spend money, and you're competitive. And so, to me, my thing is this: I think it helps probably those smaller market teams, those teams that don't spend a lot of money. They'll take draft picks from somebody like the Dodgers. If the Dodgers don't have to give up like prospects, and they can keep their farm system stacked, or at least save those
They're
those
gonna need
prospects.
draft picks at some point, though. Like they don't want to only be picking in the lower rounds. I guess
But they have. That's what the Dodgers have been doing. They've been
That's
picking in the
true.
lower rounds for the last decade, and they still have been able to build a competitive farm system. So that's why, to me, it's a fascinating story. Whether everyone will buy into it, what are the ramifications if you do see, because I mean, you see it in the NBA or you see it in the NFL where they trade somebody and you're like, wait a minute, this team, they got this team and all they gave up was like 3 draft picks. I was like, that's ridiculous, right?
I
And
guess because I'm not as well versed in this, admittedly, but like, do you see another instance where small market? Not, I don't want to blame the small market teams, but the teams that we are seeing take advantage of things like the luxury tax, or potentially like the marketing, the media that we were talking about as well for like broadcasts. Do you see this being one other way that they leverage it and then they still continue to not put money into their teams, where they're just getting another benefit without any recourse for them actually following the system?
I
Or
can see that. I can see that happen. I can see a team like I said, the Marlins. They got a bunch of young guys, and they're all paying them the league minimum right now. Let's say they have a payroll of 20 million or something like that, but the team is good, right? And they're competitive, and they get into a wild card, and you got those guys all under control for like 5 years. So it's exactly what you said, Amie, in the sense of like, all right, I don't have to pay anybody on my team for 5 years. And then once I get close to having to pay one of them, I'm going to trade them, and I'll get either more prospects or I'll give draft picks to get prospects.
Until we get the other issues under control, where we actively don't have teams putting money into their product on the field, then I'm going to be more cautious in this respect of like, no, we don't change things until this changes. You can't just keep opening more cans of worms and kicking it down the road when you haven't even fixed what's going on in the league right now. Players shouldn't want to not be traded to like the White Sox or be bummed out that they're there, or whatever team. Pick a team. The A's. We talked about this, already, but playing wherever they're going to end up playing. Like, I don't. Until you fix that, I say you put a hold on all the other stuff.
Yeah, like I said, I think I need more information to see how this works, but I see. I don't want to say that I see positives and negatives, because I could see big names being traded now, because maybe not only on top of that, I'll give you prospects, but I'm also going to give you draft picks.
And maybe it offsets the way that the market is going right now because of the expanded wild card and all that stuff, because we're seeing that halt the market in other ways. Maybe this balances it. I don't know. If we can't fix other issues, I'm a little hesitant to like, to me, it's like taxes, right? I'm not adding another tax until you can fix this stuff over here. Like, do not add another tax to whatever I'm already paying in the world until you fix this mess. Because otherwise I'm just going to be, we're all, like, no, no.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. It's something that I would like to watch this space, keep an eye on to see, because as of right now, like I said, I don't know where I stand on it, because I can see how some things can go left, but and at the same time, I can see how it may cause a big name getting traded at the trade deadline that's going to completely shift the power and maybe make the playoffs even more competitive. In the end, what you want is a competitive playoff. You want a playoff where it's wide open. You don't know who's going to win. You have to watch because there could be an upset. So it's interesting. Okay, last thing before we wrap things up here. Earlier today, at the time that we recorded this, Billy Beane passed away. And so before I go into this, I just want to clarify, because I had somebody text me this, and I don't know if you saw this too, Amie.
No, but I know that there's 2, so make sure you get the right one.
Yes, there are 2 Billy Beanes, and I saw this on social media. And
not Moneyball Billy Beane.
Exactly.
Otro Billy Beane.
Yeah, because I had someone text me and they're like, man, Billy Beane died. And I'm like, it's not the one from Moneyball. The Billy Beane that passed away was actually a former Dodger. He played 1 year with the Dodgers. He played for 3 baseball teams over 8 years. He made his major league debut with the Tigers in '87, and then ended his career with the Showpods from '93 to '95. Amie, is there anything that you want to point out about Billy Beane before we wrap things up?
Did you have something specific in mind, or just the fact that he
I have things, but I don't want to like hog up all the, I don't want to steal your thunder if you have some facts that you want to drop.
No, I mean he passed away. He lost his battle with leukemia, and he was the first openly gay baseball player after the fact. He came out after he retired. And there's a lot
actually he was the second. Glenn Burke.
Yes, Burke. Yes, but who came out like kind of voluntarily?
He was what? Yeah,
he kind of chose. Ones. I think Burke kind of kept it more to himself, a little, if I remember correctly. But he also was the diversity and inclusion for the.
That's what I wanted to go into. So that's why I didn't want to steal your thunder and be like, hey, that's what I wanted to talk about.
No, go for it.
I think it's a huge, because he was the senior vice president for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so before he graduated to that position, he was the special assistant to the commissioner in terms of, he was the ambassador of inclusion. And that's the first role of its kind in Major League Baseball. And in particular, he was very focused in LGBTQ inclusion and social justice initiatives. And that, to me, I think is huge, because Major League Baseball, which is ironic to me, because this is the sport where Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier. We look back at history, and we see that society, I feel, has taken a lot of cues from Major League Baseball. So to see Major League Baseball just be, I don't know if conservative is the right word, but to maybe
anti.
You think it's that bad? I feel like they're kind of like sitting it out on the sidelines. They're not as like other leagues in the NBA. I just, to me, it feels like they don't get that involved. So when you see someone who is devoted to social justice initiatives and inclusion, I think it's very important. And I am concerned with his death. Who is going to pick up that torch? Who will go ahead and continue to carry these things on? Because I do think it's important. I know the other side of the argument is always like, well, the best person for the job is the person that should get it. And it's just like, yeah, that's true. But sometimes people don't get the opportunity because nepotism or you name it. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with making sure that the opportunity is open to everyone.
I'm hoping with the younger generations being a little bit more open-minded in that respect too, that maybe you get somebody like that. I mean, we see a lot of it with even the Dodgers media team, right? Being very, very open. And so hopefully you get somebody of that caliber. I mean, I was reading an article that said that his story resonated with so many because of his personal journey, where he had to publicly ignore the death of his former partner to keep his same-sex relationship a secret from anyone in baseball while he was playing with the Padres at the time. And like, I we all have stories in our life, and I have friends with similar stories. So that's where, again, the humanity intersects with baseball. And it's just like, these are things that people experience every day. And for him to, he said he had to choose between the love of his life and his love of the baseball game. And he eventually ended up retiring because, that's a rough decision in a game that just basically didn't support him. And we saw that with Burke as well. I think his career ended because of that, because there were rumors and, managers telling him, hey, just go marry a woman. And like, like you said, with Jackie Robinson opening that door for inclusion, it's unfortunate that we're kind of still at this crossroads. I did want to bring up, let's see if I can not have my green screen kind of kill this. But he did write a book called Going the Other Way. So if we want to add that
Oh,
to our
is this a book club? Is this for
impromptu book club? I can't get it to show, but yes, impromptu book club.
What's it called? Because it is
It's
blocking.
it's not working. It's it's called Going the Other Way. So I can't like nothing will work. But yes, he did write a book. It's his memoir, and so if anybody's interested in reading it, it's one that I have in my huge stack to get through. But I did.
You haven't read it yet, though. It's
not yet.
Not yet.
I have so many books that I'm trying to get through right now. So, but I did have it in my hand. So, barring the green screen not allowing me to show it, it is one that's on my list.
I wanted to bring it to the attention. I wanted to address it on the show because I did see Jessica Mendoza spoke very glowingly about him on social media, and everything I saw in terms of the tributes that were being paid to him. I think it's important to acknowledge it because, again, like I said, I don't think that Major League Baseball sticks out their neck, for these kind of issues. We saw what happened with
even anti-bullying in general. That was one of their initiatives. So it doesn't just have to be LGBTQ. It because of the diversity, the inclusion, part of that initiative was for anti-bullying as well.
Yeah. So that's going to do it for this episode. Amie, any last words?
Nope.
All right. We use them all. So if you've been listening to us on the audio portion, please make sure you're subscribed to the podcast, rate us, write us a review, help spread the word. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit that notification button, give us a thumbs up, leave us comments. We love engaging with you guys. And most importantly, make sure you're following us on social media, on X at BB Shangri-La, on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch at Baseball Shangri-La. She is Amie Cuevas. I am Juan Ramirez. Nos despedimos con un beso. Amie, say goodbye to the people.
Goodbye, people.